What is going on? This is Cody, and I have to interrupt that song because we have another edition of the latest news to keep you in the groove with Maya, but this is a very special edition. Maya, why is this edition so special?
Because Gabriel Mann is calling in.
Oh my gosh, on the Skype, on the video chat, we have Gabriel Mann. Gabriel Mann, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
We are doing so good here at Children's Hospital Colorado, and we are so glad to be talking to you. Maya, take it away. What are you wondering?
Okay, so who or what inspired you to become a musician?
Well, that's a difficult question. Probably I would have to go all the way back to my father. My father was a cantor at our local synagogue in San Antonio, Texas, which is where I'm from. And I would sing with him in synagogue. And then at some point I started sort of directing a little choir there. My mom also played the piano, and my dad had a spectacular voice. So between the two of them, there was always a lot of music going on in our house. My sister also played the flute. My brother played trumpet for about a week. He was the one who did not do music. And then my other brother played guitar and bass and cello and all kinds of other things. So there was a lot of music going on, and I guess I credit my family with making me interested in music in the first place.
Oh, cool. So who's your favorite singer and your favorite band?
Oof, that's impossible. Can't answer that question. I listen to so much different music, and I basically am a fan of many different kinds of music, like everything from metal to classical music and everything in between. So, but that said, I guess if I had to choose someone that maybe had a big influence on me, it would be Billy Joel. Billy Joel was a piano player, and as a piano player growing up, there weren't a lot of piano heroes in the world, and everybody else played guitar. So I also particularly liked his songs because I felt like he always had a huge variety of songs, and many, many records, tons of music to listen to and absorb. And he was also a fan of classical music himself and was a classically trained pianist. And he's probably my ultimate hero.
Oh, cool.
He's a good piano man for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Billy Joel, so.
Good.
So how did the opportunity to write and sing the music for A Million Little Things come about?
Well, you're sort of jumping a big number of years in there, but basically between high school and writing the music for A Million Little Things, I went to college. I studied music composition at the University of Pennsylvania. I then went to USC for a year of film scoring. Then I worked in the industry for many years, and I was in I had a solo project that was albums, and then I had a band that was signed to Universal Republic, and we toured, and I did basically all of that for, 15 years or so. Then I was a composer's assistant for several different composers. This was all sort of simultaneously while I was doing band stuff. And then I got a show of my own after a while as a composer. And that show led to other shows. And the first show that I got was Modern Family. So when that became a big hit, it led to many other opportunities. And then A Million Little Things didn't start until a year ago, or I guess a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago. So that was already well into my career as a composer. And the way that it actually happened is that the guy who directed the pilot, his name is James Griffiths, he had worked on another show called The Mayor that I had worked on with him. And so he sort of brought me to meet DJ Nash, who's the creator and showrunner of A Million Little Things. And we hit it off, and I brought some music to a meeting with the two of them, and they liked it, essentially. And I don't know if they really knew that I was a singer at that point, but it became clear over the production of the pilot that we needed this big song at the beginning of the pilot to take us through meeting all the characters and then ultimately culminating with John jumping. And it was very difficult to find, it was basically impossible to find a song, a pre-existing recording that was going to solve that problem. And we wanted it to be a song, we wanted there to be a vocal in it, and we wanted it to be something that people sort of knew. So I suggested to them that I could do it myself, do a version of this song that would sort of weave in and out of all these characters' introductions and be also a serve as score when it needed to serve as score. So if you sort of go back and watch that first 5 minutes of A Million Little Things in the pilot, you'll sort of see that there's no song that you could ever have that really does all that. It goes all over the place in terms of its emotions and its tempo and when there's vocals, when there's not vocals. So anyway, once that was successful, that sort of became something that we wanted to do again as part of the sort of fabric of the show.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so that's A Million Little Things is one of my favorite shows.
Me too.
And so what's your favorite song from the show?
My favorite song? Yeah. That's tough. I think actually, do you remember the episode when there's a dream sequence with Maggie and she's in a plane with her brother or something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there's a song under that that's by The Cure, and of course I do not remember offhand the name of that song. Let me think if I can find it. Hold on one second. Hold on. There's also Don't Dream It's Over, which is that was another big cover that I got to do. That was a good one. But yeah. Hold on, let me find. How am I going to find? Oh wait, I know how I can find it. I'm on my Dropbox, which has all things for every project. A Million Little Things. Here's the masters from the first season. Love Song by
originally by The Cure.
By The Cure, yeah. That was a good one. Classic.
Cool.
Here, it goes like this. It started like really, I don't know if you can hear this at all.
There it is.
It goes there.
Yeah.
It starts as score. It takes forever to get going because now we're scoring the scene.
Okay, now I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in because I am not very technical and I'm not sure about all the kids here at Children's Hospital. Tell us, what do you mean when you say score?
Well, the score is like the underscore. Can you hear this while I talk? Is that working?
Yeah.
Am I like scoring my conversation? Okay, so basically, that's the little theme from the song.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, all this is happening under dialogue.
Okay.
It's just music that is, so I'm basically turning the song into underscore, weaving it around the dialogue. And basically underscore is just like, okay, so then the lyric's going to start right here. You remember that song?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, like, this is something that we do with some frequency in the show, where we'll take this song and strip away the lyric for parts of it where we don't want there to be lyric, where we don't want it to be competing with dialogue or whatever else is going on, and then we bring the lyric in when we want to and when it's necessary. And But basically, my job, there's a whole other person who's involved with the music on the show named Billy Gottlieb. He's the music supervisor. His job is to basically get us the rights to use these songs and also choose and help choose which songs we're going to use. So, but my job is, my title on the show is I'm the composer. So I write all of the music that is happening in the show in every scene, not just songs. So, and I only pretty rarely write songs. I've written maybe 3 or 4 for the show, but that song was not written by me. I just did my own version of it. So that's also relatively unusual for a composer. Normally a composer does underscore and they're scoring the emotion of the show, and I do that. But also I'm doing these versions of these songs that are sort of treated like score. And I happen to be a singer, so I sing a lot of them. Sometimes my daughter sings them. Sometimes some of the cast members sing them. And so the underscore is separate from the songs, but they're kind of perform the same function.
That's very cool. That makes much more sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so you've composed music for so many shows, including Stumptown, Alexa and Katie, Mary Happy Whatever, Prince of Peoria, and The Mayor.
She's including those because they're her favorites.
Yeah.
That is a funny selection.
Those are some of her favorites.
I have a lot listed here. I have like the Unicorn, High School Musical, the musical, the series.
You don't watch High School Musical?
No, I do. I just felt like that was a mouthful. So I was like, maybe I should shorten it.
That's like the best show.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite shows that I'm working on right now is High School Musical, the series. But we're on a hiatus. Everything's kind of on hiatus right now for everyone, everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Maya. I interrupted you. What was the end of your question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was, so I just love all of these shows. And I actually, over the weekend, I bought the whole season of The Mayor. So I've just been watching that like over and over again.
That show was funny, and I wish it had gone longer. It was so funny, and it was actually like a trip to write music for that show because it was so. It was basically trying to take. There was a whole other song team on that show. There was David Diggs, and he has like a hip hop group, and he and his group made songs for basically every episode. They had like one song, and I would take the elements from their song, like sample it basically, sample the song, sample the drums, and sample like the bass line, and sample all the different parts, and put them back together in different ways to score the show. So like if you needed just a cue that was not a song, like a thing to take us from one place to another place or underscore the scene, I was using their sounds infused into the score. So that was actually a really fun and interesting and unusual project.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I know there are 2 shows that I just like, no matter how like many years it's been, I'm always just gonna be very mad that they were canceled.
Man.
After one season, and The Mayor is one of them.
I know, it's terrible.
Yeah, I still get so mad at that.
There's nothing we can do. You know, there's so many factors that go into whether a show survives or not. And ultimately, it's usually about audience. If it never finds enough people to make it worth the advertisers' dollars, then it just doesn't survive. But it's also different. The metrics are different for the different networks. Like what might be a hit on Disney Plus or Netflix or Hulu or the CW even is not going to be enough of an audience for the bigger networks like ABC, NBC, CBS. So it depends. It's just how the business works, unfortunately. On the other hand, one thing that's been very good for a lot of shows, and the reason that there's so much content now, is that we have all these streaming shows now, streaming channels, where they don't have to have as big of an audience. So these shows can, like that show, there's just a lot of shows that can survive with a much smaller audience. You may not think that they have a small audience, but like Breaking Bad or even like Alexa and Katie, like these are shows that were like pretty big shows, but they were not big by big network numbers, but it enables them to survive anyway. I did a drama several years ago called Rectify. It was one of my favorite shows ever, and I was so proud of it. And it was on the Sundance Channel, so it went for 4 seasons. It would never have survived on network television. They just didn't have the numbers. But we were lucky that we got to do 4 seasons of it, so that was nice.
Oh, yeah. So, what's the best part of writing musical scores for TV shows?
I mean, it's a great job from top to bottom. It's really fun. It's not. I don't want to sugarcoat it for you. It is politically difficult, just like any big job is difficult. It's hard to get the job in the first place, and it seems like it would be a really fun thing to do, as does a lot of stuff in entertainment, and it is. So I don't want you to take it the wrong way. It is really fun, but there's difficult parts to it also. There's, the job of it is not just to write what you feel in your heart and what you want to make musically, but it's also to, you have, the whole point of the job is that you are sort of the musical voice of a project, of a show, and of maybe the showrunner or the creator. You need to be able to assimilate their musical, what the show means musically to them, and also be able to satisfy your own creative juices. So hopefully those things jibe, and in the best situation they do. And I feel that way about A Million Little Things. I think that DJ and I really see eye to eye on what the music is supposed to do and what it's supposed to sound like and how it's supposed to feel. So it's a great job. I go to a studio every day. And that was always, I was in an a cappella group when I was in college. And the first time that I went to a recording studio, it was like the parting of the Red Sea. I was like, this is the greatest place I've ever seen. These microphones and the smell of it and the headphones and the talk back button and the mixing board and all the glass between you and the control room and all of these things that like you sort of see as an image of what a recording studio is supposed to be. And now when I saw that the first time, I was like, I need to do that somehow. And so I basically spent the next however long trying to figure out a way to be in studios all the time. And now I get to do that every day. And now that we are on lockdown and I'm not in the studio, I appreciate the opportunity to be there when I can be there. On the other hand, I'm having a nice sabbatical. I'm taking some time off because it's hard to be creative every day. It takes an emotional toll on you. You sort of, I mean, it's your job as a composer for TV, especially. It's your job to crank out music every day, all day long, as much music as you can possibly crank out, depending on what you're working on. So. Anyway, it's a great thing.
Cool. Yeah, so, have you had a favorite show you've written for?
Yeah, I think that, well, I will say that A Million Little Things is right up there for many reasons. The score and the songs are sort of like fused together into one thing. And I'm able to use all of the different talents that I think I bring to music in general to this show. I can sing and I can produce music and I can write score and I can produce score and I can mix and all of these things are happening on A Million Little Things to sort of accomplish what we need to accomplish. The score that I think I'm probably the most proud of, just as pure underscore, was that show Rectify. I think that show was very unusual in terms of how it used music. It was low on dialogue, that show, even though it was an hour-long drama. So you would have these vast sort of, it was almost like impressionistic, the show. It was these vast stretches of time with no dialogue and just beautiful landscapes and people like wandering through a pecan grove, not talking. And you had to write music for that. And it was daunting, but it was also very exciting. And like you could really write expansive, beautiful music for that. Then I have my big show, which was Modern Family, for which I had to do not a lot of work, but I worked on it for 11 years. There wasn't a ton of music in that show, but I wrote that theme, and that theme gave me my career, essentially.
Oh, cool. What is your songwriting process like?
In 2 minutes.
I mean, it has evolved over the years. It's changed because I almost always now co-write songs. I haven't sat down to write a song for myself or by myself for a long time. I used to only do that when I made 5 solo records between like 1999 and 2007. And so all those songs I wrote by myself. And towards the end of that, I started to do some co-writing. And then I was in a band of 4 singer-songwriters, and suddenly I was co-writing everything. And I could really sort of focus on what I thought I was good at, which was, just sort of melodic material and sort of cool sounding piano parts and stuff like that, and the sort of emotional part of the music. And I would kind of leave the lyrics up to other people. And now, so that's sort of become my default, is that now that when I get together to write something with somebody, I'm usually the music guy and they're usually sort of heading up the lyrics. And there is back and forth. There's a lot of like cross-pollination. Sometimes I'll have an idea lyrically that's very useful, and vice versa. They'll have an idea that's musically very useful, but I'm sort of like leading the charge on the music side. Other people are leading the charge on the lyric side. So that has sort of changed over the course of the years. I do kind of miss it, but it's like a muscle. The more you write songs in a particular way, the more you are used to writing songs in that way, so the more you can do that. But if I was relied on right now to write a song with an amazing lyric myself without any help from any other people, that would be hard. But I'd have to dig deep.
Cool. Okay, so the music for A Million Little Things is it's very emotional. Is there a song that was the hardest to write?
A song or like a cue? We call all the underscore we think of as cues. That's like what we call them in the business. The songs, like when you think of the songs, if you're thinking of like the cover songs and like all the different versions of songs, those are songs. So are you thinking of like cues or particular moments of score, or are you thinking of like which song was hardest to deal with?
I don't know. That's a tough question for me. Either one.
I know, Maya, you really enjoy the show and find so much emotion in it. So I would imagine when you're asking him, it's probably from a place of working through that emotion too, as being part of the show. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Maya? Yeah.
Well, basically, I have to react to the show when it comes in. I get a video of the locked show. Okay, so it's like all the cutting is done. The only thing that's left to be done is sound. So I'm part of the sound, and then there's needle drops that happen, which are like pre-recorded pieces of music that get used in like restaurants or whatever. Or sometimes we use an original version, like the original recording of a song. And then there's the score that I do on top of the whole thing. And then there's like dialogue and sound effects. So basically I receive this thing and I have to react to everything that's happening. And I don't know if there's been a particular part of that that's been more difficult than other parts. I will tell you, okay, there was an episode, and I don't remember where it landed. Maybe it was the season finale of season 1. Is that where we're in Chicago's airport? And we find out essentially why John feels guilty. Yeah. And one of the causes maybe that led him to kill himself. So that episode was extremely complicated. There's a lot of music in it, and the music had to be that particular scene where we see that 9/11 happened, and everybody in the airport is sort of like watching it on the monitors. That was a hard scene to do. It was hard. It wasn't hard to write the music. It was hard to sort of like, it was just emotionally fraught. So it was like a lot of work to do it just because we all went through that. I don't know how old you are. Maybe you didn't go through it, but but I did, and it was hard to sort of see everybody's reaction to that. And I was really trying to be careful about how I was treating that moment musically, because you don't want it to be. I have a cheeseometer that is very sensitive. And so I don't want the music to be cheesy ever. So that's a very difficult moment. You want it to be, there's a difficult line between making a piece of music that's emotionally satisfying, but that also is not cheesy. You want it to really go hard for the emotion, but you don't want to, sometimes that means doing less. Sometimes going hard for the emotion means like doing less and less and less. So that scene wound up being just vocals. And I had started with this big expansive thing, and I gradually took stuff out, and then I was left with just the vocals, and I was like, that's better.
That's good. Maya, do you have a couple more questions for him?
Yeah. So you also do a lot of covers for the show. Have you had a favorite song that you've covered?
Yes. You know that song by Phil Collins when what's his name? Patrick? Not Patrick. Why am I thinking Patrick? Who's the guy who goes up and we think he's going to jump?
PJ.
When PJ goes up to the roof, there is a version of Against All Odds by Phil Collins, which is like one of my, first of all, when DJ said we're going to do that song, I was so psyched, because that is like one of my all-time songs. And I love Phil Collins, and I feel like I can really like do him justice. So anyway, that is one of my favorite ones. And here's a random interesting story about that particular situation. That song was supposed to go at the end of that episode, which is when Sophie starts breaking the guitars, and she finds out that Eddie was sleeping with Delilah. So like when that, so I had done this whole thing to picture a cover of Against All Odds to the whole end of the episode. It was like 5 minutes long, perfectly timed and everything like that. And DJ Washington, he was like, not working. And he had had this other song, Iris, which is a Goo Goo Doll song, as a needle drop in the PJ scene. And with this before he called me to tell me that it wasn't working. So he switched them. And he just like switched the songs. He put one in where the other one is, one where this one was, and magically, miraculously, it worked.
It all worked.
Great.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like that's crazy and pretty unusual that would happen because it was so customized. But sometimes that happens, it can just happen. Like sometimes the editor cuts in a certain way, sort of a certain rhythmic way, not like this, but I mean like sort of emotionally rhythmic. He like go in waves. And so he had like a sort of similar way of cutting those two areas of the show, I think, that must have made it work. But anyway, so then once he switched them, I was like crushed at the beginning, but then I was like, oh, well, this is great.
I look even more genius than I am.
Yeah.
So what is your go-to song to cheer you up?
Oh my God. Maybe, do you ever listen to Perry Grip?
No.
You don't know who Perry Grip is? Do you know who Perry Grip is?
No.
I've heard the name.
Okay,
So.
Perry Grip. Yes.
What?
It's Raining Tacos. Perry Grip has a huge number of songs that are all about a minute to a minute and a half long, and he's just hilarious. He has a song called Space Unicorn. So if you really want to be in a good mood, go listen to Space Unicorn.
Maya, we play Raining Tacos here. I think that's his. Is that right?
Yeah, Raining Tacos, classic.
We'll play some for you next time we see you, Maya.
Okay.
He's got tons of. I mean, if you ever want to be cheered up in general, listen to some Perry Grip. He does not write depressing music.
Okay. Yeah. My go-to song is So We Did from The Mayor.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So we did.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to listen to that again.
What?
I'm going to have to go listen to that again.
Yeah, I love that song. And I always have the whole soundtrack on repeat. I drive my mom and my sister a little bit crazy because it's always on. So
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So if you could have any song playing to announce your entrance into a room, what song would it be?
I think I'm going with the same song, Space Unicorn. That's like a great entrance song. Space Unicorn. It's like very heroic. It's like it's the greatest thing.
Cool. So what personality trait has gotten you in the most trouble?
Ooh. I'm pretty honest. I think that everybody would probably say that. If you're too honest, you can get in big trouble. But I don't know. I can really want to get my own way. I wouldn't say that this is like something that I have an issue with professionally. Like my job is to sort of take instructions from other people, but then I guess that in the end, that because of that, then in the other parts of my life, I want to be in charge and get my way. So, because I don't get to do that. Like if DJ wants to move the song, DJ is going to move the song. I don't get to say, I mean, I can say what I want, but he's in charge. So,
So is there a show that you're currently binge watching?
Not exactly. We just watched we watched the most recent Trek movies. I watched that with my family. They had never my kids had never seen Star Trek before. So that was cool. We are watching McMillions, which is it's like a documentary series on HBO. It's crazy. It's about the guy who like rigged the McDonald's Monopoly game for many years. And I'm trying to think of what else we're binging. We just watched all of Lost in Space. We just finished that on, which is, I think that's Netflix also. Is that Netflix? Yes, it's Netflix. That was really good if you're into sci-fi. We're like big on sci-fi, my whole family. We're big sci-fi people. So like anytime there's any new sci-fi to watch, we will watch it.
Oh, cool.
What are you watching?
My family and I have been watching a bunch of movies lately. And Psych is one of our favorite shows, so we always go back to that. We've been watching that. And then, a bunch of movies.
That's good.
Yeah, we just watched...
Now's the time.
Yeah, we just watched Adventureland with Jesse Eisenberg.
Cool.
Yeah, because my mom had seen that before, but my sister and I have never seen it, so we watched that.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it was really good.
All right.
Yeah,
You got a couple final questions here, Maya?
I have two more questions.
Okay.
So, do you have a motto or quotation that you live by?
I don't. And it's funny because we were just talking about this last night at the dinner table about sort of like that our family we're just sort of like doing our thing, do the whole like self-help book thing and like the podcasts that are like talking about like how all the things you can do to like make your life better and like how you should be this way and you should be that way and this is how you can make more out of every 5 minutes. This is 7 things you can do every day when you wake up. We just like don't do that. And so it's sort of like related to like do you have a favorite motto that you live by? And I think that I don't mean that it's bad that other people do have that. I just don't.
You don't have to. That's okay.
Yeah, I feel like everything's fine and I don't need to like have a motto.
So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero and why?
Oh my God. That is extremely difficult. If I had to name one rich person, it would be Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates has done what basically every rich person should do, which is that he essentially did a 180 and he spent his whole life making a bunch of money. And then he turned around the other direction and started spending all the money on things that are important to him and to the world. And that's pretty impressive. And then, so that's what people that are blessed to have a crank load of money should do. But in terms of people that there's probably way more people whose names I don't know, who are doing the stuff on the ground that help people that need help. And that's something that I think is sort of an injustice in the world in general, which is that the people who are doing the hard work are not the people whose names you know. The people who are doing the work that we need people to do are not famous. They're not rich. They're just doing it. There was actually a really interesting story on a local NPR station in Los Angeles about a woman who basically started devoting, she has like a beauty salon downtown, and she started doing 1 day a week beauty treatments, basically like haircuts and makeup and whatever, for the homeless on the street at Skid Row in downtown LA. So once a month, people line up, homeless people, and she gives them a haircut and makes them look good. And they have...
Helps them feel better about themselves.
It makes them feel better about themselves. So, like, this is a person who's just, like, completely... Nobody told her to do this. She just did it. And
she could probably use the money if she was getting paid that day, but she chooses not to.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool.
She chooses not to.
That's pretty cool.
Those are the kind of people that I think are the real heroes of the world, and they don't usually get their praises sung all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, thank you so much for spending the time and talking to us today.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for calling in. I had such an awesome time talking to you.
Good, me too. All right. Good
Thank
to
you
meet you
so much, and we appreciate it, and we'll keep our eyes open and our ears open for all of your work.
All right.
Okay.
Season 3.
We'll be looking for it. All right.
Yeah.
Take
Okay.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.